Have you ever said something only to feel invisible, like your words floated into the air and vanished without a trace? You try to speak louder, explain more, even repeat yourself, but still, nothing changes. Why? Because real respect doesn't follow noise, it follows presence. And the Stoics mastered this art in silence. Imagine being the kind of person who walks into a room and, with just a few calm, deliberate words, commands the entire room's attention. No shouting, no desperate gestures, just clarity, confidence, and intention. That's not magic. It's Stoic wisdom in action. You see, true influence doesn't come from dominating a conversation. It comes from mastering how and why you speak. The Stoics understood that words only matter when they are anchored in restraint, purpose, and inner strength. When your speech is focused, not frantic, people pay attention, not because you forced them to, but because you gave them a reason to listen. So why do some people captivate a room with a single sentence, while others ramble and get ignored? It's not what they say, it's how they say it. In today's video, we'll break down timeless Stoic principles that will sharpen your communication and amplify your presence. So the next time you speak, people will stop, turn, and really hear you. Let's begin with the first principle. Number 1. Eliminate the "I'm sorry" habit. Words shape perception. The way you speak influences how others view you and how you view yourself. And one of the most overlooked habits that silently erodes your self-respect is over-apologizing. You might not even notice how often you say it, but each time you mutter an unnecessary "I'm sorry," you chip away at your authority. You sound hesitant, uncertain, as if your presence needs to be excused. Picture this. You walk into a meeting just 2 minutes late. The first thing you say is, "Sorry, I'm late." With that simple phrase, you've already positioned yourself as the problem. It's as if just showing up needs justification. But what if instead you said, "Thanks for waiting"? One phrase whispers guilt. The other speaks calm control. Let's take another scene. You're walking down a crowded hallway. Someone bumps into you, and without thinking, you blurt, "Oh, sorry." But wait, why are you apologizing for simply being there? Every time you say sorry for something that doesn't require it, you're sending a signal, not just to others, but to yourself. I'm in the way. I'm a bother. And over time, this self-image becomes a reality. It doesn't stop with conversations either. It creeps into your texts, your emails, your voice notes. "Sorry to bother you." "Sorry, just checking in." "Sorry, can I ask a question?" These phrases may sound polite, but they're quietly telling the world and yourself that your voice isn't worth space, that you need permission just to exist in a conversation. But the Stoics would tell you this: you don't need to apologize for showing up with purpose. So, how do you start changing this deeply ingrained habit? That's where we'll go next. Let's move forward, because what you choose to say next might just change the way the world hears you. Before we move on, let's quickly recall the first step. Unnecessary apologies weaken your presence. The words you choose shape how others treat you and how you treat yourself. Now, let's go deeper. When you constantly frame your words as interruptions, you're not just being polite, you're training others to see your voice as a disruption. Without realizing it, you're communicating self-doubt. I've been there myself. I remember sitting in a meeting mid-sentence when someone cut me off. Instinctively, I backed down and said, "Oh, sorry, go ahead." And then it hit me. I wasn't the one who interrupted. So why was I apologizing? That was a turning point. Right there, in that moment, I realized I was shrinking myself to accommodate others. From then on, I decided to break that habit. 1. Response at a time. Here's a simple but powerful rule. Before you say, "I'm sorry," ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? If the answer is no, stop and reframe your words. Instead of saying, "Sorry to bother you," try, "Do you have a moment?" Instead of, "Sorry, can I add something?" say, "I'd like to add something." These tiny shifts carry weight. They subtly transform how people perceive you. You're no longer seeking permission to speak. You're owning your space. But here's the hidden danger. The more you apologize, the more you train others to expect it. Over time, it paints a picture of someone who will always back down, always take the blame, always say yes. At first, it's just someone interrupting you. Then it becomes co-workers, assuming you'll handle the extra load. Eventually, your time, your energy, your boundaries, they all start to disappear. Let's say a colleague dumps a last-minute task on you. If your response is, "Oh, sorry, I'll try to fit it in. You've just sent a message. My time is less valuable than yours." Instead, try, "I won't be able to take this on right now. Let's look at other options." No apologies, no guilt, just clarity, just calm confidence. This doesn't just apply at work. Think about how many times you've said yes to social plans you didn't even want just because you felt bad saying no. A friend invites you to something you have zero interest in, and you reply, "Sorry, I can't make it." But why the apology? A stronger response. "I won't be able to make it, but I hope it's a great time." No excuses, no guilt, just honesty. And that's enough. Of course, this doesn't mean never apologizing. There's a time and place for sincere apologies when you've hurt someone or made a real mistake. In those moments, taking responsibility shows character. But how do you know when an apology is genuine and when it's a habit of self-erasure? That's exactly where we're heading next. Earlier, we explored how breaking the habit of over-apologizing can transform how others perceive you, and more importantly, how you perceive yourself. But remember, it's not about avoiding apologies altogether. It's about using them with intention. An apology should be a sign of strength, not weakness. The difference lies in intentionality, apologizing when it's truly meaningful, not when it's just a knee-jerk reaction. If you're ready to break this habit for good, start with awareness. Try this. Challenge yourself to go an entire day without saying, "I'm sorry," unless it's absolutely necessary. That's it. Just one day, as you move through conversations, meetings, messages, and casual chats, pay attention to the urge. Notice when it arises. When do you instinctively reach for an apology? And in that moment, ask yourself, is there a better way to say this? Maybe instead of apologizing, you can reframe the sentence to reflect confidence, presence, or gratitude. The more often you do this, the more it becomes second nature. Your tone will shift, your words will carry more weight, and people, whether they realize it or not, will begin to respond differently. They'll listen more, interrupt less, respect you more, because eliminating needless apologies isn't just a language shift, it's a mindset shift. You stop seeking permission just to be who you are. And the moment you stop apologizing for simply existing, you'll notice something powerful. People will start to take your presence seriously. Now that we've handled the "I'm sorry" reflex, it's time to step into an equally powerful principle, one that defines how others treat you. 2. Set boundaries and stick to them. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That freedom begins with respecting yourself. And one of the most essential ways to do that is by establishing clear boundaries and enforcing them. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People treat you the way you allow them to. If you don't define your limits, others will define them for you. We've all experienced it. You say yes to something you don't want to do, just to keep the peace. You let someone cross a line because you don't want to come off as cold. You take on extra work because saying no makes you feel guilty. But when you constantly ignore your own limits, you're not being helpful. You're being invisible. Let's rewind to the last time you agreed to something you didn't want to do. Maybe you stayed late at work because a coworker didn't finish their part. Maybe you answered a message at midnight when your body was begging for sleep. Maybe you sat and listened to someone unload their problems while silently drowning in your own exhaustion. In all those moments, you weren't putting yourself first. You were putting their comfort above your own well-being. And I get it. I used to do this all the time. I remember once a friend asked me to help them move. My weekend was already packed. I was behind on work, low on sleep, and mentally drained. But I said yes, and almost immediately, I regretted it. The whole weekend I felt worn out, drained, frustrated, but not at them, at myself. Why? Because I didn't respect my own boundaries. And that brings us to the next essential truth, one that reveals just how powerful no can really be. Last time, we talked about boundaries, how saying yes to things you don't truly want is the same as saying no to your own values. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is a simple, confident no. I learned that the hard way. There was a moment when I realized something important. I had the power to say no, but I didn't use it. And every time I said yes out of guilt or obligation, I was silently rejecting something that mattered more: my time, my focus, my energy. That moment changed everything for me. I made a personal rule. If it's not a full-body yes, it's no matter. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, your mindset eventually shapes your identity. If you constantly send signals through your actions and your words that your needs don't matter, people will believe you, and they'll treat you accordingly. But when you hold your ground and stand in quiet conviction, something shifts. People notice, they feel it, and they begin to respect that you operate on a different level. You don't need to be loud about it. Start small. Let's say a friend invites you out and you're just not feeling it. Don't wrap your decline in layers of excuses like, "I'd love to, but I have so much to do." Just say it simply, "I'm staying in tonight." No guilt, no explanation, no justification. Boundaries are like muscles. The more often you exercise them, the stronger they become. At first, it might feel awkward. You might even feel guilty. But over time, you'll see something clear. The people who genuinely respect you will respect your boundaries too. And those who don't, they never really respected you in the first place. Now that we've laid the groundwork with presence and boundaries, let's move to a skill that's far more powerful than most people realize. One that Stoics knew was a secret weapon in any conversation hard. 3. Master the art of pausing. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned through suffering." And he was right. Silence can be deeply uncomfortable. Most people are terrified of it. In everyday conversations, silence feels like something that must be filled immediately, so we ramble, over-explain, talk too fast, anything to avoid that tension. We try to sound confident, but in the rush, our words lose meaning. But here's a truth most people overlook. If you want your words to have weight, you must learn to pause. In today's fast-paced world, we often confuse quick replies with intelligence. We assume the faster we speak, the smarter we'll seem. But ironically, the opposite is often true. Words spoken too quickly blend together. They lose their shape. They don't land. They slide past people like background noise. But when you pause, you give your words space to breathe. You give your listener space to absorb. You let meaning land. Imagine this. You're in a meeting, pitching an idea. You rush through it, hoping your speed will project confidence. But when you're done, the room is blank. No one seems moved. Now imagine the same moment, but with composure. You speak clearly, calmly. You make a key point, then you stop. Just for a second, you let it sink in. That silence, it speaks louder than your words ever could. And suddenly, the room leans in. But what's the deeper reason this pause works so well? That's exactly where we're headed next. In our last section, we uncovered the hidden power of pausing, the art of letting silence carry your message forward. A well-placed pause can hold more weight than 100 rushed words, and here's why. When you pause, people listen. Some of the most influential speakers in history, Winston Churchill, Barack Obama, mastered this technique. They understood something most people miss. Silence isn't empty. It's intentional. It creates emphasis, builds tension, and most of all, it radiates authority. I didn't always know that. Earlier in my career, I believed that to prove I was smart, I had to fill every second with words. I rushed to answer questions before they were even finished. I explained everything in excessive detail. And when things went quiet, even for a second, I panicked and spoke more just to fill the space. Then one day, after a particularly chaotic presentation, my manager took me aside and said something that stuck with me. "You have great ideas, but you don't give people time to absorb them." That comment hit me hard. It was a wake-up call. The next time I presented in a meeting, I tried something different. I slowed down. After each key point, I paused, just for a moment. At first it felt awkward, even unnatural, like I had forgotten my next line. But then something shifted. People leaned in. They listened more, not less. They weren't just hearing my words. They were processing them. After the meeting, someone came up to me and said, "That was really impactful. Every word felt like it mattered." That's when I truly understood the wisdom behind Marcus Aurelius's words. Think before you speak. But when the moment comes to act, do not hesitate. A pause isn't hesitation. It's precision. It says, I trust my words enough to let them breathe. And that trust, it projects confidence, not insecurity. This principle isn't limited to speeches or formal talks. It applies in everyday moments too, especially in conflict. Think about arguments. When someone raises their voice at you, the natural reaction is to respond instantly, to fight back. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you pause? Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. Your silence forces them to reflect. You become the one in control, calm, composed, centered. Even in casual conversations, this technique has power. Next time someone asks you a question, resist the urge to jump in right away. Take a beat, breathe, then answer. That subtle pause tells people that you think before you speak, that you're deliberate, and it makes them respect you. Here's a simple exercise. In your next conversation, whether it's over coffee or in a formal setting, pause briefly after you say something meaningful. Let that silence work for you. It may feel strange at first, but soon you'll notice a shift. People will listen more intently. They'll give your words space, and you'll begin to feel it too. More control, more presence, more respect, because mastering the pause isn't just about speech. It's about owning the moment. Now that you've learned how to let your words land, let's explore something just as powerful: how to speak less, but say more. Now that you've learned to harness the power of the pause, letting silence enhance your message, it's time to master another crucial skill: using humor with intention. Because yes, humor can be a strength, but if used carelessly, it can quickly become a weakness. Or use humor without becoming a clown. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Laughter should not be abundant, nor should it be absent. There is a time for everything." Humor, when used wisely, is a powerful social tool. It can diffuse tension, create connection, and even signal intelligence. In fact, research consistently shows that people who use humor effectively are often perceived as more competent, charismatic, and likable. But there's a catch. When misused, humor doesn't elevate you, it erases you. There's a thin line between being witty and being the person nobody takes seriously. If every sentence you speak is followed by a punchline, people might laugh, but they won't listen. Because respect isn't given to the one who's always entertaining. It's given to the one who knows when to be serious and when to lighten the mood. Have you ever been in a meeting where someone kept cracking jokes? At first, sure, it was funny. But after a while, their words lost impact. No one saw them as a leader, just comic relief. I know that mistake all too well. I made it myself. Early in my career, I used humor as a shield. Whenever I felt nervous or unsure, I'd crack a joke, thinking it made me seem more approachable. And sure, people laughed. But they didn't take me seriously. I remember one specific meeting where I joked, "I'm just here to make spreadsheets. Look pretty." People chuckled, but afterward, my manager pulled me aside and said something that stuck. "You're better than that. Don't make yourself the punchline." That was the moment I realized I was using humor to hide, not to connect. So how do you use humor in a way that builds, not breaks, respect? Start with this. Be clear about the purpose of your humor. Are you trying to ease tension, make a concept more memorable, create camaraderie with your team? If your only goal is to get a laugh, it may not be worth saying. Second, go easy on the self-deprecating humor. A little humility, that's good. But constantly putting yourself down, that chips away at your credibility. Instead of saying, "I have no idea what I'm doing," try, "This is a learning curve and I'm figuring it out." One sounds unsure, the other sounds self-aware and adaptable. And third, always read the room. Not every joke works in every setting. Sarcasm can come off as arrogant. Dark humor can feel out of place or even offensive. A great communicator knows when to lean into humor and when to hold it back. So, how do you know what to say and when? That's where we're going next. The art of speaking with intention. In the last section, we explored how humor, when used wisely, can be a mark of leadership, but when used carelessly, it becomes a mask, not a message. Humor should support your communication, not overshadow it. So before making a joke, pause and ask yourself, will this add value to the conversation or distract from it? Marcus Aurelius once advised, let your words be few and well considered. That applies to humor too. It should serve a purpose, not become the main event. Timing is everything. The best humor feels spontaneous, but it's actually thoughtful, controlled. A well-placed joke can lift the energy in a room, ease tension, or emphasize a point. And when it comes from someone in a leadership role, it shows composure, not a desperate need for attention. Picture this: a tense meeting, tension thick in the air. One calm, well-timed joke, not too much, not too sharp, lands at the perfect moment. Suddenly, the air clears. People exhale. You've just shifted the entire emotional tone with confidence and control. But beware of a common trap, using humor as a shield. When you're uncomfortable, it's tempting to joke your way out of it, to cover vulnerability with laughter. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is be direct. If something feels off, don't dodge it. Pause, breathe, gather your thoughts, and speak with clarity and purpose. Because here's the truth: humor is a tool, not a crutch. Use it to elevate your message. Never let it replace one. When you find the right balance, when you know when to be light and when to be grounded, you'll not only earn respect, you'll become unforgettable. And now let's turn to something even more important, something that determines not just how others see you, but how much they trust you. 5. Drop the gossip. Epictetus once said, if you, by want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, if walking away from gossip means others judge you for it, let them. Your integrity matters more. Nothing destroys respect faster than gossip. The very moment someone hears you speak negatively about another person behind their back, they stop trusting you. Why? Because if you'll gossip about someone, what's stopping you from gossiping about them? Gossip is seductive. It feels like an easy shortcut to connection, a way to feel important by sharing secrets or inside information. But in reality, it makes you look small, unreliable, weak. Think about the people you truly respect. Are they the ones huddled in corners, whispering about coworkers? No, they're the ones who speak with integrity, who rise above drama and refuse to tear others down for sport. I learned this lesson myself. There was a time when I got swept up in harmless chatter, small remarks about coworkers' habits or personal choices. It didn't feel cruel. It didn't feel like gossip, just observations. But one day, I overheard a hushed conversation, and in it, I heard my name. That moment hit hard. If they were talking about me, then I was no different from them. I had become what I was trying to avoid. From that day forward, I made a decision. No more gossip. Not as a joke, not as a habit, not even passively. And here's the interesting part. When you stop participating in gossip, people notice. In the last section, we explored how walking away from gossip doesn't make you boring, it makes you trustworthy. And in a world full of noise, trust is rare. That's why it matters so much. When you refuse to gossip, people begin to see you differently, as someone grounded, someone mature, someone who doesn't need to tear others down to lift themselves up. That earns more respect than any shallow connection gossip can offer. So how do you break the habit? First, recognize it when it's happening. Gossip isn't always obvious. It wears disguises. Sometimes it pretends to be concern. I'm just worried about them. Or a curiosity. Did you hear what happened with so-and-so? Or even venting. But here's the key. If you're talking about someone who's not present and it serves no real purpose, it's gossip. If it doesn't move the situation forward or resolve an issue, it's simply noise. Second, redirect the conversation. You don't need to shame anyone or make it awkward. A gentle shift is often all it takes. Try saying, "I'd rather not talk about that. What else is going on?" Or, "That's their business. I hope they're doing all right." These short, respectful phrases send a clear message. I don't participate in that kind of talk. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." The same applies here. Instead of indulging in gossip, invest your energy in things that matter, your character, your goals, your inner growth. Because here's the truth, gossip might make you feel included in the moment, but it quietly erodes trust. And once that trust is gone, it's hard to get back. If you want to be respected, speak with integrity. Avoid pointless drama. Keep your words focused on what truly matters. Now that we've addressed one of the fastest ways to lose respect, let's explore one of the most overlooked ways to gain it. 6. Know when to stop talking. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in unimportant matters." In other words, wisdom isn't about showing how much you know. It's about knowing when it's better to say less or nothing at all. This might feel uncomfortable to hear, but it's the truth. Many people aren't taken seriously because they talk too much. We've all seen it. The person who keeps explaining long after their point was made. The one who dominates every conversation, unaware they've lost their audience. The one who treats silence like a threat and tries to fill every quiet moment with words. But the more you talk, the more you dilute your impact. I've struggled with this myself. I used to believe that being persuasive meant covering every detail. I'd over-explain, repeat myself, rush to fill every pause, thinking I was being helpful. Until one day, after a long-winded monologue in a meeting, my boss pulled me aside and said, "You had them in the first 30 seconds, but then you lost them." That moment was a turning point, and what I learned from it is exactly what we'll dive into next. Earlier, we explored how talking too much can actually weaken your message. And more often than not, that habit comes from a deeper place, insecurity. The fear that if we don't keep speaking, we'll be ignored, misunderstood, or dismissed. But here's the paradox. True confidence doesn't show up in endless talking, it shows up in restraint. It's not about how many words you use, but about how intentional you are with them. The most respected individuals don't ramble. They speak with clarity, they trust their message, and they understand that silence isn't a threat, it's an ally. Marcus Aurelius once said, Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others unless it brings some benefit. We can apply that same principle to speech. Don't waste your words unless they serve a purpose. So how do you refine this skill? First, become aware of your habits. Do you tend to repeat yourself? Do you over-explain or feel anxious during silence? Awareness is the first and most powerful step toward change. Second, practice the pause. Make your point, then stop. Let it land. Let it breathe. Let others catch up to your thoughts. Yes, it may feel uncomfortable at first, but with time, you'll see that silence doesn't weaken your words, it strengthens them. Third, trim the excess. Before you speak, ask yourself, what's the shortest, clearest way to express this? The best communicators don't drown their message in fluff. They deliver just enough, no more, no less. This is especially critical in high-stakes situations. Picture this. You're negotiating a salary, you state your number, and then silence. Your instinct might be to explain, justify, talk your way into their agreement. But the most strategic thing you can do? Say it, then stop. Let them sit with it. Let the silence do the talking. This same rule applies in interviews, arguments, pitches, even casual conversations, because when you learn to stop speaking at just the right moment, people start leaning in. They take you more seriously, and they respect your presence even more. Now that we've walked through all 6 principles, let's bring everything together. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you earn. Through your tone, your posture, your boundaries, and your presence. It's not about being the loudest or the smartest in the room. It's about being the most grounded, the one who speaks not to impress, but to express, with clarity, restraint, and confidence. Let's recap, eliminate unnecessary apologies, and you project quiet confidence. Set clear boundaries, and you teach others how to treat you. Master the pause, and your words gain weight. Use humor wisely, and your credibility stays intact. Refuse to gossip, and you build lasting trust. Know when to stop talking, and your message becomes unforgettable. Apply these 6 Stoic strategies, and everything will begin to shift. People will listen more, they'll take you more seriously, and most importantly, you'll begin to see yourself differently. So, which of these principles do you need most right now? Leave a comment below, and remember this: speak with confidence. Own your space. Never shrink yourself for anyone. More powerful lessons are coming soon. Stay focused and stay tuned. Stay